sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are live here on a Tuesday, and I know that we kind of changed up a day here, but Thursday no show. However, Friday is still on for us here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, however you guys may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your day. Jay's joining us. Well, the home run derby last night was something exciting, and then tonight we've got the all-star game, and I'm happy they're going back to the original uniforms where everybody is representing for their organization. It's just more of it's more of appreciation for these organizations than anything else. I never understood, just having these preset uniforms. It just kind of takes the whole fun out of just, really appreciating all these organizations, in baseball. I just never understood that concept.
I really wish they would just bring back the home field advantage goes to whatever team, whatever league wins it, like American or national, because they're doing a football style home field advantage to where whoever has the best record, it's home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs. It's just no, I think what they should do is, and the reason why they are doing it that way is because for 5-6 years in a row, the American League just dominated the National League and was always getting home field advantage when it came to the World Series.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing, though, is because, for years I've always remembered it where whether American or National League team, when they ended up getting up and into the World Series, they would end up having home field advantages through the 7-game series. I remember that being, the importance. If the NBA and the NFL and, most leagues would end up doing it these days, like we talked about, I know that the NBA has to shed the amount of games off in the playoffs, because why would we go to a 7 in the first round? You're already going to be tiring these guys out more than it is, but it's, it just, to me, I want to see my stars, healthy, ready to roll. And maybe we might, because again, once Tyrese Halliburton went down with that injury, it changed the whole plethora of the way that we would have looked at the playoffs from there. Because why would you stress these guys out in the beginning? So I do want to get into this because we got some NFL news that actually came out. So let's start with this. So we're going into the East Coast. We know that training camp has been starting up, and it's going to be starting for some teams. But for the New York Jets, they officially got some deals done. And two important players who I personally like when it comes to Sauce Gardner and with Garrett Wilson. They ended up re-signing both of them to 4-year contract extensions. Sauce Gardner now looks to be the highest paid corner in the league. But here's the thing about this. Both of them are very talented players. One from Ohio State, the other one from Cincinnati. And my thing with this is that the Jets, this year, it's all about stability. It's all about trying to build and rebuild the culture of what was supposed to be working for them when Robert Saleh was the head coach. Unfortunately, it was not the case the minute that you signed up and got Aaron Rodgers in the building. So now with Aaron Glenn keeps one of his top stars on defense and also keeps one of his top receivers on offense. So what it is right now and what the Jets are trying to implement and what they're trying to do is that you've got a new quarterback in Justin Fields who now is reunited with his old Ohio State teammate. And you would hope that he would be able to stretch the field down. Because the one thing about Justin Fields and what he learned up in Pittsburgh is he lowered down the amount of mistakes that he was making in Chicago. And we know Chicago doesn't do offense well anyway. But besides the point, Justin Fields now is going into an environment, and again, take the organization stuff away from the whole conversation, especially when you're talking about Woody Johnson. But when you talk about Aaron Glenn, you're talking about the chemistry of the team. You're not dealing with Aaron Rodgers. You're not dealing with this whole entire, darkness retreat, this false sense of hope where you're getting bought into where this team could be 14-3. You're not dealing with that anymore. You are now going to be dealing with a team that's going to try to build its consistency, and it's going to be a healthy build, whether Justin Fields is your future quarterback or not. But the thing about it is, you could not end up living without your number one wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, because that is one that has a very good route tree, somebody who had positive upsides, especially when you were working with Zach Wilson. You had to do whatever it took to win games, be better up on defense, and that was exactly what it was. I feel like we're coming back to the year in which Robert Saleh, when he first got Aaron Rodgers, and in the first 5 minutes of the game, he's injured, and they have to go back to Zach Wilson. I feel like we're getting that year again this up-and-coming season. However, they're going to win 2 more games. They're probably going to end up finishing up with about 7, at least 8. But they'll be a competitive team. The difference of it is that you saw exactly with how the chemistry worked under Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron is all about, his image. He's all about his aura. He's also all about, him being an apologetically himself. That's what Aaron Rodgers is. And we know that he is more, he's more passive aggressive. But the thing about it is, you're not trapped. You're not under any type of manipulation spell. You are now going to actually build this team up the healthiest and best way possible. And with Aaron Glenn, we know that parts of it with the defense with Detroit is they were hurt. Lots of really good players were hurt, including Aiden Hutchinson. You're one of your best edge rushers. But now you're going to end up getting Jermaine Johnson. You're going to end up getting a couple of other really good pass rushers and your defensive front that's going to be healthy too. And then not to mention your secondary, I think it's going to be harder, especially when you don't have DJ Reed. So I think, in my opinion, I think that the Jets, to me, I actually have them as my favorite, best, worst team, going 7 wins or maybe even 8 in the AFC. I would end up having a different team up from there. People get confused with best, worst team. What I mean by that is that I know they're going to finish 4th in the division. They're probably going to end up missing the playoffs, but you are starting to build a healthier culture this time. You are starting to do the right thing. So adding in those 2 players up and into the mix that you already got deals done, you can now relax on the idea of Garrett Wilson possibly being up on the trade market. Sauce Gardner finally gets his contract extension. Is well deserved. And at the same time, and think about this. This is a good thing for Sauce Gardner himself, because now he's got his defensive coach again after Aaron Rodgers ended up getting Robert Saleh fired. And now he's going to have the defensive coach again, but there's going to be much more trust in the building. And Eric Glenn, a former New York Jet, he understands that. So that's the one thing that I know most people, it's hard to get behind. But let's be honest here. You know that the AFC East, it's all going to run through Buffalo. And you also are going to have some mixtures of New England, who I feel like could make the last wild card spot. The Dolphins, it's a make it or break it year this year. And the Jets, they're the Jets, but they'll be a better looking version of the Jets. And you're going to, honestly, I'm going to enjoy watching the sidelines when the defenses come out and the guys are just playing hard. That'll be the most exciting thing. And if the Jets, honestly, if they end up getting up into some winning streaks and spurts, you're going to love what the future is going to look like for the Jets moving forward. But again, it all comes down to you got to grab a quarterback. And to me personally, you should be patient. So once you get that future quarterback, because it's unfortunate what happened to Jordan Travis, but the thing about it is really Justin Fields the answer to your future? We'll find that out this upcoming season. All right. Kansas City ended up making a move as we're shifting up and onto it, but they made a move. They ended up extending their franchise tag guard Trey Smith to a big contract. So here's the deal about Kansas City, because Kansas City, they know that it's not a guard problem, it's a tackle problem, and a lot of people are really skeptical about it, including myself. Now, could this be the day? Could this be the year the Chiefs possibly lose out on the division? They can still make the playoffs, but could they lose the division? The Chiefs, to me, what did we learn from the Super Bowl last year? Is that once the defensive front and all those linebackers, when they busted through and they literally turned the entire interior and the outside tackles into Swiss cheese, you were screwed. You are back to looking like the Chiefs that got dominated by a defense against Tampa Bay again. That's what they looked like. Now, many people are like, well, they traded away Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney's getting up in age. And you know what? Good for Chicago getting themselves a veteran guard, because they know that they needed one, especially when you're trying to build consistency and stability in Chicago. If Chicago makes the playoffs, good for them. I would not even anticipate like them making the last wild card spot in the NFC, because we know with what the NFC North is built. But if they don't make the playoffs, that's okay too, because all you're trying to figure out is if the coach Ben Johnson works, Caleb Williams figures out a lot of the stuff that he ended up going through in his rookie season, and he's a lot better. He's got a bigger, better jump. And let's just hope the offensive line can defend their quarterback. But for the Kansas City Chiefs, they know they needed to lock in their interior side, because Creed Humphrey is a Pro Bowler every single year. Trey Smith is a valuable guard. So who were you going to honestly choose? One that's obviously on the tail end of his prime and about to retire, and he's already won multiple Super Bowls? Or are you going to end up going and getting the youngster extended because you know that he is very valuable and productive? So those are sometimes harder decisions you got to make. But I don't believe they overpaid their guard, because for multiple reasons is that because Patrick Mahomes is getting paid higher amounts as it is, but you have to defend your quarterback. And they know that Trey Smith, they can't win without him, because there goes your interior defense. There goes your interior blanket. You'll be watching Patrick Mahomes running up and down the sideline and running for his life because you now have the interior exposed. That's not what you want to happen. So I think, in my opinion, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to be interesting this up and coming season, but I feel like that because of where they're sitting at, I don't trust their tackles. I really don't. I trust their interior guards, and I trust their center, because the center is a Pro Bowler and he's the one that's being vocal up front. But to me, there's going to be a lot of pressures this upcoming season. And the games that Kansas City won that were close, 11 of them, you're not going to see that again next year. You're not, because a lot of those games are going to be ground and pound. And those are going to be a lot of battle-tested games. You're starting the year off on the road in international territory in Brazil against your division rival, the Chargers. That's not easy. But you know you needed to protect the interior side. So, to me, Trey Smith, he's worth every penny, in my opinion, because you know Joe Thuney is up there in age. So you needed to lock up your youngster, and maybe potentially, if Josh Simmons really works the tackle, which I have high hopes on, who hasn't allowed, he hasn't allowed a whole lot of pressures and sacks at Ohio State. He's one of the top tackles before he went down with an injury. And so if you get that, and you go into next year's draft, and you go and potentially get a guard either up and in the second or the third round, who apparently is a very high-quality prospect, Kansas City's offensive line is going to reload again. But that's going to determine how this season really pans out. But I don't see them potentially winning up that division. I think it's going to be difficult. But yeah, good day at least up and into the neighborhood, Chase. I will say, though, because with those extensions,
I didn't see the Garrett Wilson one.
Yeah, so Garrett Wilson, he ended up getting his extension. It was a 4-year contract. And now you got Sauce Gardner now being the highest paid corner.
Yeah, I saw the Sauce one. I just never saw the.
Yeah, it actually had just ended up breaking out here from here. Yeah, we'll bring it up. But But yeah, that it was important, and it was a signing that they know that they needed to make for both those players, because how many times have we been hearing about Garrett Wilson's name being up and into the trade block? So they have secured their number one receiver, and they know they're not going to let him go anywhere. They're not going to let that happen. And at the same time,
no, but Terry McLaurin might be on the way out of the Commanders.
Okay, so here it was. So the contract for Garrett Wilson is 4 years, $130 million.
Yep, I just found it.
Very good. And that's what I'm saying. You're not going to let him go. And at the same time, if you're New York, I'd be patient. And if honestly Garrett Nussmeier from LSU falls to you, go get him. Because in my opinion, you're going to have a very good quarterback who I like his pocket awareness. Because again, there's multiple. Because going into the college football season, you're going to have Drew Aller that's in there. You're going to have Garrett Nussmeier who's up and in there. But honestly, I think in the scheme fit, I trust more of Garrett Nussmeier more than anything else, because I think he just fits exactly with what the Jets are doing, because you've already got your number one receiver secured. You've got a number two receiver right there who's up and coming, and hopefully he'll burst. And then you've also got Mason Taylor, the tight end. And not to mention, look at that offensive line. You cannot take that for granted. That's why it's
Malachi Corley too, and a lot of people forget
that's
about
what I'm
him.
saying. You got Malachi Corley. So this is why I think the Jets don't be in panic mode. Be patient. If you don't make the playoffs, that's fine. But you got to really restructure the chemistry first, because whatever the hell that culture was with Aaron Rodgers, terrible. So you got to now find a way to restore it. That's what I'm saying. I think they're my best worst team in the AFC next year, because if you get 7-8 wins, that puts you at least in the top, if not in the middle of the pack. And how many teams at best are going to want a quarterback?
Who is your worst AFC team?
Well, I mean, my worst AFC team is going to be the Jags. It's going to be the Jags.
I'm surprised you didn't choose Cleveland.
No, because the difference about this is, I was talking with this with everybody off the air. Cleveland is in a better situation today than when the Jags are. Because here's my problem. You go ahead and you get Travis Hunter. But why would you trade away a first-round pick next year to a team who now has 2 first-round picks? I believe in Cleveland's future before I believe in Jacksonville. You just got a new staff, and you're trading away a first-round pick? What are you doing? That's the part where every year, teams that do that is why they're the top 10 teams in the draft boards every year, because of moves like that. It's not baseball, and it's not the NBA, where draft picks don't matter. Those draft picks right there are impactful stars for the future. That's why once you get rid of a first rounder, you get rid of a first round pick, you better have a good reason why. This is why I was so critical about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because if they traded away TJ Watt and they got an overhaul of picks, and you get Abdul Carter as one of them as a first round pick, I'm not mad at that. That's actually a pretty damn good deal, because you wouldn't even have to pay Abdul Carter for 4 years. So then you could go get you could go get your O-line. You can go get another receiver. You could go get a quarterback if you really wanted to. But in Jacksonville's spot, you have one corner. I'm putting it on the line. That is difficult for a corner and wide receiver to be playing both sides in the NFL level. I'm sorry. That's difficult. So you're going to have him playing every snap next to Tavon Campbell. I don't see that working out. And at the same time, what is that offensive line really provided for Trevor Lawrence? Then you were thinking about Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. I don't know, dude. I just think if you're going to get a receiver, great. Be a receiver. Because at this point, you've got Brian Thomas Jr. You're going to have Travis Hunter, which, to be honest with you, he doesn't even run that remarkable of routes. But he's got great hands. But that's what I'm saying. I believe more in Cleveland's future before I believe in the Jags. Because how many times have we been doing this with Jackson? Several times. It's never worked
and
out.
they just signed him to an extension too.
Well, yeah. I mean, you were going to pay him. You were going to pay him the rookie contract. but still, it's just because 2 first-round picks to me, it tells me a lot that you have, like, because again, you got Joe Petonio, who's probably going to retire after this season. You got to go get an offensive lineman.
We got Tevin Jenkins, like, that we picked up for a 2-year deal. So, like, if Joel retires this next year, Tevin's going to fill in for him. He's still young. He's still like 27, 28 years old. He's got some time to fill in. So I think what is more than likely going to happen is that one of 2 things are going to happen. Is Shedeur is going to start for us at some point this season, and he's going to light up the league and, lead the Browns to the promised land. And then we go into next year with 2 first-rounders. We address the wide receiver position, and we address the safety position, and with the potential to get the best safety in the draft in Caleb Downs. Or option number 2 is that Shedeur, Dylan Gabriel, and Joe Flacco all suck, and then we go pick up Lenora Sellers.
Oh, wow. South Carolina quarterback.
Or Drew Aller, because, he's a Cleveland boy through and through. He's been a Browns fan his whole life. He knows what it takes to win, and he went back for his senior year because he knew he was not ready in terms of being a quarterback.
Well, that's the thing is because we got spurts from Drew Aller where I think that he has the throws, but if he can honestly refine it a bit. And earlier on, I was talking with Zach Seko of Locked On Nittany Lions, and was saying the same exact thing. This is the year for Penn State to really get serious because you're going to have returners. You're going to have some guys that you already built up organically within your program, and you better hope that that's the juice, because right now you're already riding the Big Ten magic right now, because Michigan, Ohio State in back-to-back years, Penn State maybe.
They were one play away from making it to the national championship and having an Ohio State and Nittany Lions championship game.
Oh, yeah. And it probably would have been ground and pound either way from either of those teams, because we know Notre Dame is all about their defense. And, Penn State, they're all about the ground and pound. And I was even mentioning about it is because of that one secret weapon that they needed for wide receiver, because that's going to be the biggest game changer. But, yeah, again, going back to it, I trust more of Cleveland's build than I do of Jacksonville's. People don't seem to believe that, but I know the difference of it is because Jacksonville has a franchise quarterback technically, but you're not doing him any services if that offensive line is piss poor. You got a defense right now outside of Trayvon Walker and a couple others that just is not holding it down for you.
We'll trade Deshaun Watson for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, have him come to the land. Well, we got a pretty good show here up and on tonight, but so since for many, many years and since 1953, Maker's Mark has been the mark of arguably one of the most delicious tasting Kentucky straight bourbon, and you can see it. The red marker just tells the story for itself. Whenever you crack open a bottle of Maker's Mark, you are now leaving your mark of wherever the biggest moment in your life seems to be. Whether promotion, whether, marriage, relationship, whatever the mark may be, grab yourself a bottle of Maker's Mark and make your historic mark like many of the distillers who have made arguably the best tasting Kentucky straight bourbon and in a barrel, one of the aged barrel caskets that you will never, ever be left disappointed. Great taste and great memories ahead. Leave your mark with Maker's Mark. 21 and over. Enjoy responsibly here with Maker's Mark today.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
So I know Chase, obviously, being a fan of the opposing team in his division with the Cleveland Browns, I know he's obviously going to be smiling exactly with what I've been talking about because I've been talking about Pittsburgh for literally weeks on end. But I had a bit of a breakthrough that I wanted to share with all of you guys that I thought was really interesting. And again, I promise you I will take a break from talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers for quite some time. But I had a breakthrough of this today, and I was starting to think about it because it just felt like that this would just be the perfect match, but even better than what they're getting right now with Mike Tomlin. So the Pittsburgh Steelers know that they have a lot of stuff on their hands. Obviously, it's Aaron Rodgers' last season in the NFL as their quarterback, and is hoping that Pittsburgh will get into the playoffs again and maybe potentially win a playoff game after all these years. So, but the problem is that Pittsburgh is the most paid team on defense. All they love is their defensive players. Once they ended up trading away Mika Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins and ended up getting Jalen Ramsey and taking on the contract, it's like, is there ever a time where like they actually want to care about offense for once? Like, it just seems like they just overly stack the defense. It's too expensive, and it seems a lot, too. These guys are getting older. What are some of these teams in the league doing? Like, Philadelphia just came fresh from a Super Bowl championship, and that defense is young. You got Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, and Quinyon Mitchell. You got several other players that are also young, and you re-signed Zach Bond. Like I told everybody else, you weren't going to find any other linebacker in that market outside of Zach Bond, and neither in the draft. So you're better off to end up getting, you're better off keeping your impactful linebacker that helped you to win a championship. Like everybody else, Williams and Josh Sweat, those guys are replaceable because it seems to me like Philadelphia, and even when they ended up getting Jahad Campbell, it sounded exactly just as I thought. Like you got a pass rusher. You got somebody who could play hybrids on both those sides. So it's not like they're going to be struggling. But to Pittsburgh's deal, they keep getting defensive players and they keep paying them. And TJ Watt's going to be expecting a higher contract, probably the most highest paid non-quarterback position in the league. And what are you going to do from there? I don't understand it. But besides that, we know that there's a lot on their hands. And we know that Mike Tomlin, if he doesn't end up getting this right this year, he'll honestly end up retiring. Like, he'll end up stepping away. And I think it should be the right move for him. But I was thinking about this. Chase is actually going to like this. But I'm looking at Pittsburgh's history. Pittsburgh is a well-respected franchise. They have a rich history. I mean, you go back to the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, multiple other organizations. To me, I started getting the feeling of this. If the Pittsburgh Steelers were to move on from Mike Tomlin tomorrow, who would replace him? I feel like that the perfect candidate who acts similarly like Mike Tomlin, doesn't take no crap, is more of a culture setter, but he's also not rigid. He's more innovative, and he's more open-minded. What are the chances Brian Flores would fit this job? I'm going to say this right now. I know many of you, listen, this is not even something that's like in a symmetry of like the types of coaches that we're talking about here. What I'm talking about is that if you look at Brian Flores and what he's learned about from his tenure in Miami and where he is currently with the Minnesota Vikings. By the way, do you guys even remember where Mike Tomlin came from before he took the Steelers job? He was a DB's coach in Minnesota. You don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers would honestly end up repeating something like that again? Only this time, with Brian Flores, you knew the defense was going to be better anyway. But if Pittsburgh had to make the difficult decisions on defense, you already end up getting a couple of young defensive players, and you need to get younger. You need to start trading up some of these older guys to go and get more draft picks and more younger on defense so you could spend your money on offense. Because the last thing you want to do is you want to be trending backwards to where you don't even know if you're going to either have the same season as the New York Jets or you're lucky enough to even make the playoffs. I know everybody's harping about Will Howard this, Will Howard that, but you're better off not throwing him into the Wolves this year. Let him learn from Aaron Rodgers. Let him at least learn the playbook. But the bottom line is, I don't trust that offensive line. I don't even know what the run game is going to look like once you let Najee Harris go to the Chargers. And at the same time, too, like, you let go of George Pickens. So what exactly is your offense? That's the problem I have. That's the trouble I have grasping. But with Brian Flores, much like I look at Robert Saleh, and why he didn't end up getting at least a solid chance in New York is because, number one, you didn't have the right quarterback, which 65% of the league always whiffs on franchise quarterbacks anyway. It's hard, okay? And you're going to probably get, what, Chase, 3, 4 quarterbacks next year? So you got plenty of time with that. But you are a defensive mind that knows exactly how to work with the defense that you have set, but now you need a trustworthy offensive coordinator. I don't even know if Arthur Smith, truthfully, could run the needle for me. That's the part where I have a little bit of an issue with. But if Brian Flores takes the job and he's looking at some offensive coordinators, I mean, could you imagine that if the Miami Dolphins, okay, let me be honest with you, if the Miami Dolphins let go of Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier, if they don't make the playoffs and they have a horrid year, man, I could see Brian Flores and Mike McDaniel teaming it up because, number one, there's an alpha in the locker room. There's a smart, innovative offensive mind in the offensive coordinating room who's working with the quarterbacks and the playbooks. I mean, Pittsburgh could honestly have an upbringing. You think I talk bad about Pittsburgh? I'm actually uplifting you guys right now. Like, do you realize that? You should be honestly booking, and I better hope I got Pittsburgh Steelers fans in this show right now, because you better hope that if after Tomlin, you got Brian Flores as your head coach, because strong, tough, alpha, understands exactly all that, and he's not rigid. Because remember, if it wasn't for Tua literally putting him out there in the open and Brian Flores having to be accountable for the actions, but then at the same time was like, that was my past life. I'm not going back to that. That's the part you should be excited about. And then at that point, if Miami quickly gives up on Mike McDaniel, smart offensive mind, he's going to have an offensive coordinating job. And what I think will work, which is a match made in heaven, is I think this would allow Mike McDaniel to actually have a culture set. He's got the offensive mind involved, but many of what I've heard in Miami, he can't control the locker room. That's a bad idea. And so if you could get him next to Brian Flores and work that out, I guarantee you those two would be perfect, and people would be hating on Pittsburgh again, because that right there would tell you the offense is going to get better, defense is going to do just fine, but you're going to honestly be like Chicago, because if you're going to continuously have a 1950s television and you're constantly paying up on defense, good luck, because then your offense is going to be stale and stagnant, and then you're not even going to win a playoff game anytime soon. You will be looking like the Pittsburgh Steelers before you ended up getting Big Ben. Trust me. I mean, history always finds a way to repeat itself, but you've heard it from me first. Stamp it, plug it in. That's my prediction. I feel like that would work for Pittsburgh if this does not work out with Brian Flores or with Mike Tomlin. Chasing the news.
This is the hot press.
How about that, huh? How about that? That was my upbringing today. I did not even think about this until it literally hit me today. And I was just like, you know what? Brian Flores just fits the role of what
I really
Pittsburgh
hope
is.
not, because I'm getting sick and tired of
I it.
I'm getting tired of the Steelers just being
Well, but this is
the way that they are is it's about time that they get humbled, and about time that they have some shitty situations. I want Mike Tomlin. Here's what I want. I want Mike Tomlin to go to a team like the New York Jets and everything, because pairing him with the New York Jets and getting that football team switched around and everything would really cement his legacy as a phenomenal head coach. And then you bring in somebody like Adam Gase to coach the Steelers and everything.
God.
That would be great, because then you would have the Steelers be terrible season in and season out for the next 5 years. It would be amazing, and I would love it.
But taking the bias aside from this, because I already know how you feel about that. But let me ask you, is that not a match made in heaven? Because here's the thing. Brian Flores, tough, alpha, and he understands defense. I think a lot of it is because he was held accountable by Tua with what had happened up in Miami. But Miami was just a mess anyway, because Chris Greer was just making moves that were so questionable at the end that it didn't work out for the Dolphins. Because remember, they were on a bad streak of losses, and then what did they do in the back half of the season? They started winning games. They were almost into the playoffs, but because it was so too late, they couldn't even make it. But he made the defense better. I mean, multiple nods of players on defense. They were getting recognized. And that's why, Brian Flores, because we know that what Brian did not want is he did not want the title of being a Belichick guy, where he's a foxhole guy. He's all about, tough and angry. And he didn't want to be that guy. And so when Tua came out with that, and he answered in the presser in Minnesota, that's a different person, Brian Flores, I like. But pair that with somebody who's innovative up on offense, and you know what his problem is? He's got no backbone. I've heard every report in Miami, he can't even control a locker room. All these guys are just literally so that's why I think Mike McDaniel, if he is gone, that right there sounds to me like a scary tandem I want no part of right there. Because you got a guy that can honestly take care of the offense. Because I don't trust Arthur Smith, really. He does some good things well, but I don't trust him to really kind of get up and over the hump like that. But I trust more of Mike McDaniel because I've seen what he's done. Even if you had an offensive coordinator or an offensive mind like Kyle Shanahan, you got the offense running well, and he loves running the football, which is what Pittsburgh needs. Pittsburgh needs a consistent runner. They also need somebody that you can move up and out of the pocket with, get a wide receiver that can end up running those routes. That's what you need. So everybody that's laughing about George Pickens this and his attitude and all, just saying.
I mean, yeah, I agree. It would be a great choice and everything, but if it was up to me, I'd have the Steelers just be ass for a while, just because.
Yeah, but I'm
getting sick and tired of their hype. They hype them up every year.
But think about a team. It doesn't even have to be the Steelers. Think about a team as a whole, right? Like, wouldn't you like that, even if he went to the Browns, right? If you like Brian Flores and then having the idea of Mike McDaniel, would that not turn around an organization that quickly?
I mean, maybe.
I think so, because to me,
I'd rather have Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniel.
But this is exactly what I'm talking about, because Robert Saleh is even a defensive mind who knows defense. I got that covered. Like, it's not unlike it's not a Brandon Staley situation, which we all knew what that looked like with the Chargers, because he got overwhelmed. He got overwhelmed with that position. Defense was horrid. But at least with Robert Saleh, even if you didn't have a good team with the Jets, look at how good that defense was. Sauce Gardner just got paid. And it's all because if you didn't have those first couple years under Robert Saleh where you were producing that much, you wouldn't have even gotten a contract like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just getting sick and tired of all the hype that's surrounding the Steelers for no reason. Like, they hype them up every single year. They say Super Bowl contenders. They say, their time is now, and then they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs every year. And then Mike Tomlin can't make it out of the first round, and then we get the talks over and over again, like, is it Mike Tomlin's turn to fucking leave? Maybe it is. I mean,
I just see this: if they don't make the playoffs,
good. I don't know.
I just know that if they don't make the playoffs, Tomlin's going to end up retiring, because I don't see him. He's probably going to do like a Mike McCarthy. He'll take a year off, because usually a lot of coaches, they want to see what jobs are available, what's attractive to them. Because that's the same thing of, even with the whole scandal at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, that worked out perfectly for the Chargers, because you knew Jim Harbaugh was a culture-setting guy. Mike Vrabel comes back to his roots in New England because you needed to do him a solid. You went through 1 year with Gerard Mayo and you saw exactly what that was. But with Mike Vrabel, I trust that culture. So why not? That's why I'm like, any team in particular that would have the mindset, structure, and culture of a Brian Flores complemented with a smart offensive mind and Mike McDaniel, that's scary. Because think about it. It's not just head coaches you got to think about that just plainly do it themselves. It's their duo. It's a duo as a whole, because those are your right-hand henchmen. Because remember, when Jim Harbaugh came up in here, he already had a relationship with Greg Roman in the past in San Francisco, but his right-hand man is Jesse Minter. Because that's a guy that knows how to...
That's a guy that needs a head coaching position.
That's Jesse what I'm saying. Minter. He's turning around a last-ranked defense into a number one scoring defense. That's insane.
And I think that Jesse's going to get his time this year if he has the same success that he did last year. And like we'll transition that into the news that I got about a certain Chargers player that is feeling the late effects of an injury that occurred a couple weeks ago on the 4th of July. Yeah. Najee Harris has come out and said that he feels like he could be partially blind in one of his eyes due to a firework accident that happened on the 4th of July. I guess it's a good thing you guys got Omarion Hampton in the draft after all.
Well, I know a lot of people were kind of skeptical about this whole thing, but if that ever became the case, I know that, LASIK surgery was also something that was negotiated in the middle of that throughout the entire medical procedure. But it's really tough, because I don't consider this, like, the thing about it is that he's partially blind. So even if you got like a LASIK surgery or such, hell, maybe you can hit up, Jameis Winston's doctor and really kind of get the LASIK surgery done there. You know what I mean? But I remember when the accident happened with Jason Pierre-Paul, and he had to go around with a club as a hand. But it sucks.
A hand is completely different than your eyes. But even you need your eyes to be able to make the cuts, read the holes, know the plays.
You do, but sometimes, like in incidences and accidents like this, anything could really happen. That's why everybody is all screaming out, like, you got to be safe upon it. Because here's the thing. If you have an accident where it involved like cracks and then ashes and then all the rest of it, it's hard to see. So I wish the best for him, but I don't think people are really hitting the panic button on this. He gets LASIK because, again, LASIK surgery, I don't even know what the I don't know. I know it's a procedure, but I don't know how long that the recovery rate is after LASIK surgery. I think it's quick, isn't it? I think it's like
it's usually like a couple weeks and everything.
Yeah. So even if he got the procedure done, and let's just say it helps him, at least, from whatever damage that ended up happening up from there, I think it could help him. So.
Yeah. I mean, who knows how it is. Moving on to another running back situation that we got. You league owners, look for Dylan Sampson to take off this year for Cleveland, because after what came out this offseason, I know that there's going to be some talks about whether or not Dylan Sampson becomes the starting running back and Quinshon Judkins becomes the backup, because it has been reported that Quinshon Judkins has been arrested for domestic violence, assault, and battery on his, a friend that he knew, a girlfriend, somebody that he knew in Fort Lauderdale. Obviously, the reports came out that this incident happened on the 7th, and they didn't report it until the 13th. And so, a lot of people are questioning whether or not it actually happened, and questioning whether or not, this incident is just to get more publicity for the female and to look down upon Quinshon. Who knows what the real situation is? All I know is that we got another Cleveland Brown in the headlines once again.
Yeah, I mean, the Quinshon Judkins thing, I mean, it really does suck. I mean, but I think even with Dylan Sampson, I don't know what this may do, at least as far as just the running back room is concerned, because I don't think there's really anybody else at this point after J.K. Dobbins got signed here to Denver. So I think your limited resources are starting to thin. But, to me, I think if Dylan Sampson, I just love his quickness and speed. But hopefully, if he can honestly shake up the tackles like what I watched in Tennessee, I think he'll be up in good shape. But, yeah, that is kind of a big hit for Cleveland. But, hey, if he gets this thing cleaned up, I don't think he would necessarily be the starter up from there. But you could always work your rotations up any way that you can. So
I know that they want to work with Dylan and Quinshon as the 1-2 combo. So they may start off with Dylan and then put Quinshon in. And a lot of people are saying the Browns passed on the better running back out of Ohio State. Everybody always forgets about Quinshon Judkins at Ole Miss and how many yards he had and how many touchdowns. He had 20 touchdowns and over 1,400 yards in a single season.
I knew once he hit the portal, and the minute that Ohio State got him, I was just like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Because that just means Ohio State was going all in.
Now, it also makes you wonder, is the problem with Cleveland's PR team or Ohio State's PR team? Because this is the second year in a row that an Ohio State player has, been in trouble for domestic dispute and domestic violence. Michael Hall, the defensive tackle out of Ohio State that we had last year, our second-round pick, got suspended for the first 4 games of the season due to a domestic violence issue. And it's leading people to question, is this an Ohio State PR nightmare or a PR situation, or is it a Cleveland Browns? Because, who's really covering this up and sweeping it under the rug?
Well, a lot of times, we see this with PR stunts all the time. College, it's much more. I feel like that there's a part of a structure from there that's really important. We know that with NIL and such like that has been a difference maker, and it's really changed the, I guess, the entire plethora of just the way that these kids have been built these days. But we also know, because I've seen this with the Raiders. With the Damien Arnett, Henry Ruggs situation. Once these kids, we know that when they get into the NFL, you are arguably going to end up being paid high money even with your rookie contract anyway. And this just happens because you're a young kid. You even if you spent years up and in college, you got to have a sense of direction anyway. And it's the thing that we preach about with these NBA players, because you're getting endorsement deals, you're getting all this stuff, you're getting everything up and around it. It's just there's no sense of direction up from there. But I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting one because I don't think I really necessarily have heard a whole lot from just Ohio State's PR as much because, I mean, I've seen this with Zeke, no problems. Seen this with Garrett Wilson, no problems. At least none of like the players that you know that are impactful, that make a difference in that program. We haven't heard that a whole lot, but
I mean, we did with Zeke. Draft night, we heard the potential of a sexual assault allegation, after his first year in the league, we had a sexual assault allegation thing that led to a 6-game suspension, and we later found out that it wasn't a true statement and everything. But that's the point that people are trying to make. With Ohio State being such a big, area and as big of a program as it is, and then these top shot players that are going to be high draft picks, people are looking at them like potential targets and everything. Or do they think that now that they're from the big name schools and now in the pros, they're going to target the teams that way? It's a conversation that a lot of people are having, and it's going back and forth with, and we have no idea. Like, is it the college system that's to blame for the reason why these players are acting out in the pros, or is it the pros not keeping a lid on these players and keeping them, in close quarters and everything like that? So
the problem of it is that once you get into the pros, you're practically already a grown adult. And I think that's just the reality of it, because they're not going to be there to basically hold your hand in any way. I mean, yeah, my biggest thing is I would want to learn from a lot of the mentors that are in the league, but you're on your own at that point. It's just like me being a parent, and it's like you're going out there and you're experiencing the real world. My hope is that I have shown and given the tools in order for you to go out there and to learn and pave your way. But because college, they keep you on a campus, and there's already that structure up and in place. The NFL, you're not staying in the facility. Like, you're in the facility to practice, to work. You're basically going to work. And you got a house, you got a condo, you got all these other living situations. Everything that you do on your own is obviously going to be your choice. Well, that's the hard part. I mean, all of us have learned this in life, okay? Because once we left the nest, it's up to us to pave our way, because ultimately you're going to want to get paid the best amount to stabilize your home and your foundation. But then you also want to be thinking about your career of what is your better upbringing that's going to allow you to have that. So everybody makes choices. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We live in a caffeinated society, Chase, that I think at the end of the day, I have never heard a lick of accountability at all. I don't care who you are, whether you are the president of the United States, whether you're an athlete or in some of these other areas, or even if you're an agent, where does the accountability kind of get held? Because I've had to deal with this in the past. I mean, I had one person that I basically had a falling out with, and it's all because of business reasons. It ended up ugly. But luckily, the only thing I look at it is that I had signed no contract, so nothing to me financially was ever messed with. And you know what? At least I knew the true colors before it even happened. So
I mean, it's interesting.
That really is important.
Yeah, it definitely is interesting. And I think the last little bit of news that I've got, and then I'll let you take over, is that we've had Peyton and Eli come out and talk highly about the Manning name and how big it is for them to finish college and, get that degree, because with what happened with their brother, you don't know if your NFL career is over before it begins, and they want a backup plan for a lot of the Mannings. That's why Peyton and Eli and Cooper all got their college degrees, and they want the same for Arch. But Arch has had a different story. In a recent interview, they've asked him, like, do you plan on coming back for your senior year? And he's just like, my main goal is to win a national title for this team. We were very close this year, and if it happens and I develop well as a quarterback, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But other than that, nobody knows what the future entails. So it sounds like Peyton and Eli are trying to confirm that Arch is going to be back for one more season for his senior year, but it sounds like Arch has a different story.
Well, again, it's all going to be up to the kid at the end of the
Yeah.
day. I mean, we know that the Manning name is obviously prestigious, but we know that every single one of them, they have all walked a similar walk, if not a little bit different than the other, where they know that because, again, academics is important to them. I knew that because of the amount of reports that have come up that have understood who they are. Like, they're all about academics. They're all about planning a backup future, in case of whatever happens in the NFL, because it is important to have a backup plan. But, again, Arch is talented, but the thing about it is I just have to see what he does, because ultimately Quinn Ewers is gone, and you are now taking the reins of an offense that you're on the road in Columbus in week 1. That's not going to be easy. So a lot of people that feel like, because again, we got a 3-game sample, but for those programs, respectfully, was not Ohio State, neither was it Michigan, and neither was it Alabama. Well, I didn't even get, truthfully, the kind of sample that I would go and sit and say, he is ready for the next level. I haven't seen that yet. But it is good to at least get experience on it, and he's learning it from, obviously, Hall of Famers.
And he's going to have a tough schedule this year.
Yeah,
in terms of playing like Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU.
Yeah, they're going to be tough games. The SEC is getting tougher. That's why people that keep thinking like, has the days of the SEC gone? No, they're not. It's just a tough conference because of look at how many of the teams in their builds. I mean, what is John Mateer going to look like at Oklahoma? Like, and the other thing is that, you start the year off in Columbus against Ohio State with a big atmosphere, because again, what's going to impress me is he just does something unbelievable against the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes are not going to care because they won the Natty, but they know they got to win. They know that they got to win games to get back into the playoffs, but he does something spectacular. Maybe that is something that I can honestly put some respect on.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. If he can come into Columbus, beat Ohio State to start the season with, and then go on a tear and beat teams like Alabama, maybe an LSU, maybe a Georgia, maybe an Oklahoma and everything, like we're going to start seeing the rise of Arch Manning's draft stock rise to the number 1 overall pick selection, like everybody claims that he's going to be.
Yeah. But as of right now, I mean, the only one that I've got my 2 cents on is so far it's going to be between Garrett Nussmeier and probably Drew Aller.
Drew Aller, yep. Yeah. I think Lenora Sellers could make a name for himself as well.
Hey, look at that, who came up and onto the show. Well, Chase with the news. Let's go ahead and move on. I want to give a good shout out, though, but here we go.
This is the Hot Press.
Well, I'm actually really happy that he was able to jump on. But shout out to my guy, Ben Garcia, because, by the way, he actually got a special appearance on The Herd. He really did. Him and Jason McIntyre actually, because they've known each other for over 2 years. And
wow,
they collaborated. So, yeah, to get that moment, congratulations. And by the way,
I would love to be in front of Colin Cowherd and actually talk to him.
I mean, hell, but here's the other thing, though, too. I don't want to get deep into it, but we know that Fox Sports has kind of been going through a pruning season. You saw the news, right? There were 3 shows that ended up getting canceled. And then, of course, one that they didn't renew the contract. So shows opening up. So we're just waiting for the phone call.
Hey, Snake Sports Talk Show. Let's go.
Please get somebody, at least a Fox Sports representative or somebody to just you don't even have to do anything yet. Just watch. Just watch the show, and then we'll see where we go up from there.
I mean, dude, if we can get on Fox Sports and debate in front of each other, that would be awesome.
Oh my God, it would be a life changer. That would just be the career upbringing that we've been waiting on for a long time. Yeah. But I do want to say, though, because we know that we got the All-Star game going on tonight, and it's already 2-0 National League.
By the way, Screwball has been not so good, and I'm loving it. Because everybody thinks that Tariq Screwball is as good as what he is,
Yeah.
everything, but he's really not.
Well, I mean, the All-Star game is always a fun festivity, so I don't ever hold that against him. I think most of that is whenever we get into like the postseason, I can see that. But here's my thing though. So we just saw earlier on what a special moment though for Ketel Marte. I do have to appreciate that because he ended up hitting he ended up knocking in 2 runs and started it off for the National League in a big way. But I will say this. Last night was actually really, really good. Cal Raleigh ends up winning the home run derby. And by the way, they actually caught a clip of him 20 years ago calling about him winning the home run derby. And then he officially ended up doing it last night. But the thing about it is what I enjoy so much, because we talk about festivities all the time, and why the NBA, like when it comes to the All-Star game, there's no meaning. There's no like home court advantage. There's not even anything that's up and in there. I mean, I love the 3-point shots and I love the skills challenge and I love all the rest of that other stuff, but it just seems like they're not really invested in the game itself. I mean, by the way, the Four Nations tournament with the NHL was fantastic. It changed up the All-Star game. It changed up the way that we even viewed it, because the minute that we watched USA and Canada throw the gloves down and fight, and USA ended up winning it, even though Canada won the gold, like, who cares? It was a fun tournament, but that changed the All-Star game, because I remember going to the All-Star game in Vegas years ago, and I thought it was a fun festivity. I got a chance to watch the fastest skater, skills challenge, the puck challenges, the saves challenge with the goalies was fun. So that's a fun atmosphere. But the problem of it is that all those games, they're 3-on-3s, and you're having to play against only 4 of the represented divisions: Pacific, Atlantic, Metropolitan, and the Central. You're having to play those 4, which to me personally is just wonky. But the Four Nations tournament was perfect. But Major League Baseball has always had a special place up on it, because it's such a rich history sport that when it comes to festivities like this, I love the home run derby. I want them to really start to expand and think about other festivity activities, because to me personally, I would love a hit challenge. I would love to see some of the best hitters, like the ones that are like batting over 300, to spot the ball. Because honestly, could you imagine Luis Arraez and Jacob Wilson honestly end up playing in that competition? That would be fun, because it just tells you they're not fixated up on home runs. They're fixated on putting the ball in the right spots to either get on base, score runs, or even just, force out double. That's what they're about. I can imagine pitch location, starting pitchers, closers. You know what the fastest pitch for closers? Put it. Why not? Baseball's already in the position right now where the viewership is starting to go up. So even if you instead of doing this ridiculous golden at bat rule, why not just get some more activities involved? Because we love the home run derby, but we would love to get more of the festivity if we can. Because could you imagine, just like the hardest slap shot for hockey? Could you imagine Aroldis Chapman or Mason Miller or any of those other closers that just throw Brusdar Graterol? They throw the hardest pitch and the fastest pitch as closers, and all the timing is just velocity. That's it. And you know what? Blocks for catchers, because ultimately you're trying to see how many times can you go without giving up a ball, without getting a passed ball. Because if you can honestly defend, that's good. Or even infield skills, or even like long toss for outfielders. I'm just saying, I'm putting together all the ideas, and
I mean,
I think
those are pretty good ideas.
I think it's remarkable, honestly, because all you're trying to do is get people to draw into the sport. Because, like we talked about, it's 162 games a year. Nobody's going to tune into it until it's October. That's a fact. But if you could do activities like that on a Midsummer Classic, All you're trying to build is relationships.
Side note, I do want to say that Aaron Judge has 351 career home runs right now, and he's 33 years old.
Yes.
Let that sink in, people. 351 at 33.
I know.
If this dude continues on the pace of hitting 50 to 60 home runs over the next 7 seasons,
it is just so easy for him.
club.
It's just so easy for him. The fact that he's literally going to be up there with guys like Mike Trout and the rest of them, at least at that age, that's purely
he could be one of he would actually be the 5th player in MLB history to get to the 700 club
that fast, because even at an age that he's at, that's insane.
Yeah, 351, and he needs 349 more to get to 700.
Yeah,
and then he would need an additional 68 to break the home run record.
Yeah, man, I would love. I love moments like that. I would be all for. I mean, but the thing is too is I would not like for a moment like that. Why are we putting it on Apple TV? Can we just put it on a major network like Fox or either of them? Because that's a historical moment. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody knows it's a historical moment. So, come on. You're telling me they wouldn't do this for Aaron Judge? That's ridiculous. Because I remember what happened when Albert Pujols hit the 600 and the 700.
And then
it's just like
700, yeah. Like they had a standing ovation for him.
It was up and on Apple TV, Chase. I really couldn't, because it was just like, hey, this is a major market. Like, network.
Yeah, like Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, and Albert Pujols are the only 4 in MLB history to get to 700. Alex Rodriguez was 4 away from the 700 club.
It was so close. But
and Jim Thome was 60 away from the 700 club.
Yeah. Not many have honestly been able to crash that threshold. Not many, but yeah. All righty, man. What a great show that we had here tonight, man. Appreciate everybody for coming up and on. Appreciate everybody here. Enjoy the rest of the night here, guys, because we do have a very good show up on Friday. We're hoping to at least get some more interviews up and involved, but it was honestly a good day today to kind of take a little bit of a break, because we've been working hard on a lot of these interviews. It has been fantastic. We should be having some more up and on a long horizon. So appreciate everybody for joining us with Chase and myself, guys. Have a great Tuesday night, and we'll see you guys up on Friday here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, everyone.